Hello, my name is Leanne, and this is my watercolor 2 project. I decided to pick Mary Heelman because she is an abstract artist, and that's one of my favorite techniques in art. Um, she was also born and raised in California, and she pursued an art career, and then she ended up moving to New York, which was very similar to my original plan growing up, so I found that really cool. I also find her paintings beautiful, and I love her use of bright and vibrant colors as well. What years was she active? Mary Hellman has been active for 50 years since her professional career began in the 70s. She didn't actually start painting until Mary didn't actually start painting until she moved to New York in 1941. She had graduated with a bachelor's from University of California, Santa Barbara, with a degree in literature and a minor in art, with her main goal to actually become a teacher. She had even dabbled in ceramic medium at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and began to study a ceramic master's program at UC Berkeley. So she ended up pivoting away from the teaching, but she initially wanted to do that. Are they still alive and making work? Yes, Mary is still alive and well. She is also still making artwork and going to exhibitions. She actually had several this year. Um, and on one of the links I have, you can actually schedule a day to go and see one of her artworks that she just made, um, or that she's been in the process of making and now isn't actually in an exhibit. Um, but yes, and she still works with a variety of mediums, including painting, ceramics, and furniture design, and continues to be inspired by the ocean and her life on both the East and West Coast. This was also one of her first paintings. This was her first painting that really was successful and was in an exhibit. It's called Landscape Closet, and it was made in 1972. Oh, by the way, this is her Instagram. She just has an Instagram. Uh, I found it while researching if she was alive or not. So this is her Instagram. If you guys want to follow her and the stuff that she posts, um, this is her business Instagram or her studio Instagram. It's at the top here. Um, but she also just came out with a book recently, and so now people are buying it and stuff. They just posted September 16th this past year. Her last post with the leaves and the tree was November 2024. So, but she's still okay. Um, what city and country does artist live and work in? She currently lives in Bridgehampton, New York City, with 2 studios, one located in Manhattan and one where she lives. A lot of her inspiration comes from her beach life. Comes from the beach life of her hometown. She applies the same inspiration while living on the East Coast. So a lot of her paintings were inspiration from surfing culture while she lived over on the West Coast. Because she lived in San Francisco, and she also took a lot of inspiration from the rustic beach houses that were around the area at the time. So she applies that inspiration a lot towards her inspiration now, which is the East Coast and the beaches there and how they differ. So this is one of her paintings from New York when she's living there. It's called Crashing Wave. A lot of her paintings are oil on canvas too, which I find that interesting because I've tried working with oil many times before and I can't find my way around it, so I find it really cool that she was able to she paints with oil. Okay. Did I previously know her work? No. I didn't know anything about Mary or her artwork. I don't really know a lot about any artists. I haven't really looked up to an artist. If anything, I mainly look up to movie people and like producers and stuff. Um, but I will say this is a first for me, and I do find her history and reason for why she paints, it's very inspirational. So she was influenced, like I said before, by 1960s counterculture, the free speech movement, and the surf ethos of her in California. During the 60s and 70s, the concept of dematerialization in art, modernism, and minimalistic style was taking over and being pushed into the public of what art should be. Mary saw this and wanted to bring back painting as a form of expression and rebel against that ideology. So I kind of delved. I've never heard of dematerialization before in art. Um, so I did some deep diving, and I do have a lot of links uh, in my citations to articles about dematerialization and what it was and everything. So this is what I've grasped from it. I've understood that dematerialization is a form of art that is mainly based in intellectualism and mathematics. And it's not at all about the artistic process or the creative process that the artist goes through while making a piece, and that, in a way, telling the story of the piece, because those go hand in hand, the creative process and then the product. Dematerialization pretty much says that the creative process doesn't matter, that the creative process should not and like does not impact the final product of a piece, and that the way that expression should be, well, the way that emotion should be expressed is by like photography or like objects with like a clear message, um, and what was the other one? Photography, like just like plain objects, um, and performances. Performances was another big one. Um, and with those, it was mainly the plot of the point of uh, there is no like art is just art. Like there's no more hidden meaning, and they find, or the people that follow dematerialization, in the articles they describe like art that has like 3D illusion or 3D illusion, uh, like what was it? Art that has, so like a painting that's describing. Damn, dude, I have to find it. Hold on. So it was. I think it was this one. So what was it? What was it? According to, here it is. Here it is. The task of painting, for example, was to define precisely what kind of object a painting truly is. What makes it a painting and nothing else? For example, if the nature of paintings is a flat canvas, is as For example, if the nature of paintings is as flat canvas objects onto which colored pigment is applied, elements such as figuration, 3D perspective illusion, and references to external subject matter were extraneous to the essence of painting and should thus be removed. That was their point. And I find that kind of like crazy, especially in modern times, because a lot of artwork nowadays has all those things. It has figuration, has illusions, and has references to like external subjects in the painting, right? And a lot of my work does too. But these people that believed in this movement and this push for this type of art, they truly thought that this was going to be like the final version of art. This was like the final phase of art, and it was going to be like this modernistic, very like plain and simple, like intellectual art, and denounced art that contained these three things: figuration, illusion, and references. So when this started emerging, hold on, let me go back to the slides. Okay, so when this started emerging, Mary wasn't okay with that. Mary did not like that, and like I said before, she wanted to rebel against it because she believed the opposite. In this quote, she even states, rather than following the decrees of modern, non representational formalism, I started to understand that the essential decisions taken during the creative process were more and more related to content. The modern movement was over. So she fully believed, which I do too, and I think a lot of people do, that the creative process relates heavily to the content that gets produced by it. Um, the emotions and the turmoil and the like on and off again situation, especially art block, those all get condensed into what your final piece becomes. And that is what makes art, in my opinion. Um, so personally, I don't think dematerialization is good. But it was just like a sign of the times, and these two photos are examples of that. There are others, but I chose these because they were the safest options, because they were the photos being used as examples in the dematerialization articles I was reading, and websites. Also, I okay. To me, Joe, I don't. Do you know like about dematerialization and this stuff? Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. To me, this type of stuff reminds me of what's happening kind of like nowadays with gentrification and how like a lot of modern stuff is being pushed out into the world when it comes to houses and businesses and technology and stuff like that. And I feel like sooner or later everything's gonna lose the creative process and the creative touch. Like if you look back at older like business logos and stuff, they used to have their own unique like spin on it and their own unique like font and color design and shading and everything. And now everything's just seen as like flat. Places like McDonald's and uh, um, I can't think of it anymore on the top of my head. I'll just say Burger King, like, or Taco Bell. That's a better one. Those places, they're now just like metal boxes with the basic logo on them. They don't have like the whimsy and the play place or anything like that, like they used to have back when we were kids. Cars are just like sleek metal. Technology is sleek. It's not colorful or bright anymore like it used to be when newer things were coming out, like Game Boys and stuff. Um, and especially houses nowadays. Like I see all the time beautiful houses torn down and then they're rebuilt into these boxy black and white modern houses, and it genuinely makes me sad because like there's so much creativity and uniqueness around here and Redondo Beach and um in this like community of LA. And to me it just sucks to like see it torn down. And I kind of feel like that's what dematerialization was, and now it's turned into gentrification. Um, I don't know if this was just a tangent, but I really found like a clear comparison between those two. Oh shit, I'm 14 minutes. What did I like about the work? Does it remind me of anyone? Is there something you find compelling about the content? This is weird because going off of what I last said, I sound very supportive, and I am still. Some of Mary's work I like because I feel something. I feel something when I look at them, and my brain is able to conceptualize a story or meaning from it. But majority of them I don't understand. It's mainly shapes painted uh, in bright colors or solid color, um, that I just don't get. And but I bet if she was here explaining it to me and the process that she went through making them and everything like that, I'd be able to understand, the meaning coming through the painting better. For example, this painting on the left side called Cut, I see a lot of imagery with this. I see like a tile floor, like a black and white old tile floor that's kind of faded. So maybe like an old tile floor. To me, I think of like an old home, or like an old uh, mall, or like an old shop or something. The cut in it with the black paint, I see that very like metaphorical, maybe like cutting a job, like back to the shopping, a job, or cutting a relationship, or cutting something, um like a conflict within herself. I see my brain is able to come up with a story here, and I like that about the piece, and I like that I'm able to do that, and it makes me feel more connected to it. The one on the right, it's named Guitar, and it's just a black box with a pink box on top. Now, it's very crisp and it's very clean and it's pretty, and I might even have that in my room. But what's really getting at me is the name, right? And I get like paintings can have like, unique names, but with this painting, that I feel it's just like blank. Like I don't see a story behind it, and even without the confusion of the name itself, um I feel like it it's just like a black box and a pink box. There's nothing more to that. Um, and actually, not all her works, but this specific one and a couple others remind me of this piece. I don't know if you guys remember this at all, but this piece was by Barnett Newman. It's called One Minute VI, right? I think that's 6. And I remember being on Twitter in 2020, um, and this was like blowing up all over because this painting got sold for $43.8 million. And like everyone was blowing up about it because looking at it, it's 2 blue squares with a white line painted down the middle, right? And, it kind of blew up because people were outraged, like, how could you do, like, it blew everyone's mind. And I remember looking at it, and I feel that people have the reasons for what they paint and everything. You know, I can't talk bad about that. But I do feel like that's a little outrageous. And I know it's like, small circumstances that happens, but, I don't see something inspirational or some sort of story within this painting, but you might. And so I when I looked at her works, I kind of remembered this. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I can compare it to. These, on the other hand, I really like these paintings. Uh, just pretty much these two are the beaches here. This is Redondo Beach and Hermosa Beach. And I got very excited when I saw this because in media, rarely do I ever see those cities, my city and then Hermosa, represented like anywhere. And so the fact that this artist who was based in California, uh, and was inspired by the beach, actually was able to paint their representation of Redondo Beach and Hermosa, I like got really excited about that. Um, Also by the fact that these paintings are so sick because it's literally just like thin blocks of color, and she just put them right next to each other, but she did it in a way that it's, to me, in my like eyes, it's like gradient, and it looks really sick. Like that looks like how when I've looked out on the shore before, or like the water from like a great height, and like that like gradient from the shore to out beyond the water. Like that's really cool. Same with Hermosa too. I like the juxtaposition how Redondo Beach is like darker and Hermosa Beach is lighter, because for a while that was kind of like a thing that people talked about, how Hermosa Beach was like cleaner um, than Redondo. Uh, but I same thing, like same feeling. I see the shore, I see the like distance, through it somehow, and I think that's awesome. Whitewater, that's another one. Excuse me, kind of the same pace. I think Whitewater is beautiful. I would actually buy that and hang it in my room. Um, that truly looks like when you're walking out at nighttime on the sand at the shore and you see the foamy water layering on top of each other and it looks like black almost, but it's not. It's just the night sky. That is so sick, dude. I was so I found that incredible. Excuse me, I'm hiccuping. And then the bottom right, opal. Now this was also really cool. I find all these cool. Opal, I find that cool because from just looking at it, it's just squares, right? It's kind of like what I talked about before with that. But this, it's different. And I don't know if it's different because of what I'm going to explain, but when I look at this, I remember being a kid and like if you ever seen like the opal like gem when it's like cut or something like in a piece of jewelry, if you look at it when it's like cut, you see all those different colors, and if you really focus on it, you see like blocks of color shine through at different angles of the opal, right? At different like angles of the cut. And I used to do that with like a pair of earrings that I have. And so looking at this is just like if you took that like blocks of color that I would see in the rounded kind of cut format and you just flattened it out and like simplified it a little bit. Like that's what that looks like to me. And I can clearly see that. And that's also like crazy. Like I think that's so cool how I'm able to see that of my interpretation of it. All these are my interpretation, but it's the fact that I can interpret something from them. Um but yeah. Okay. What did I think of the artist's objective? And the other questions too. I just I truly think Mary's objective was to express emotion through abstract imagery. Throughout her many influences of the West Coast landscape and surf culture, she was able to apply the simple meanings of painting, color, surface, and form, and she was able to manifest nostalgic memories and cultural references from the viewer's collective, memory, allowing the work to remain accessible on both a personal and universal level. And yes, to the to period, place, to time period, place, and socioeconomic. Yes, I agree to all those. Um, her California roots gave her a strong connection to the surfing culture, and her contrast of the beat generation with her analytical geometries and minimalistic style of her content. When she had moved to New York, however, she had found herself isolated in the male dominated sculpture scene, which actually pushed her towards painting and rebelling against certain trends like dematerialization. Also, in the 90s, Heilman embraced her being a part of a Catholic middle class of teachers, engineers, cops, and nurses, which was a complete shift from her initial self image of an outsider. So she actually felt like she was part of a community. Um, Questions I'd ask her. I'd ask Mary personally if she ever experienced art block, and if she did, how she was able to overcome it or, kind of work through it. Um, Mainly growing up, I've experienced more art block than anything, and I don't know why. I feel like it's because of my own, like, self, I don't know, me getting in my own head mainly. Um, but I think there's more to that. I think there's more to that, which I won't get into. Um, but I've never really heard or read older artists, past artists from like, the 70s, 80s, 90s, um, them experiencing art block or really talking about it as much. And I feel like it's more common with kids our age and how much of a struggle it is to actually be able to have that motivation and have that drive to be creative. You really have to force yourself to be able to do it, but it's a fine balance. You can either force yourself to work through the art block and create something beautiful, and then you're proud of yourself for doing it. Like, you just went through all that stress and discomfort, you went out of your comfort zone, but you create something beautiful. Or you go through a more negative outlook of it, and you're just like resenting every step of it. It's not working, it's not coming together, and then you just ultimately give up again. And so I just want to see if that's something that she experienced before. Uh, um, but yeah, also this painting, another beautiful painting. I kind of like put it here because I didn't want it to be blank, but also because it has like a spiral going, and I thought like, oh, like spiraling out, like stressing yourself out from art block and stuff. I thought they correlated. Also, it's very pretty, and it's called Undertow, which again I feel that fully correlates to what that is, because if you've ever gotten stuck in Undertow, it's very scary. So, and it's like a spiral. I think it's really cool. My citations. Thank you.